but they had these road parties, you know, they was doing this road, or they were extending it for the rail. And it was the same thing again.
What colour?
It was the blue one.
The blue one?
Yeah, but see, my nephew, the same one, was driving the Falcon, and his wife was there. And I said to his wife, see, I think there's a blue light waiting for us. And my nephew said, oh, not again, Auntie. Yeah, it's them, all right. So we driving along. It was just there in the bushes. And I said, no, it's coming up. It sort of came up. And it was, you can see the spinifex and all the scrub sort of blue colour. But it was shaped like that. A little
was
window.
Was that the same as your painting?
It was the same exactly.
Came back.
Yes, and I said, there it is again. I said to the nephew's wife, see, that's exactly the same the flying saucer that we saw at the Honeymoon's Gap. And she couldn't believe it. She looked at it and she looked at it is. And I said, see all them little windows? And then after that, keep looking, because my nephew didn't want her to look. He was so frightened. And I said, we keep looking, and then all of a sudden it just went.
Where did you see the UFO?
In my street.
Oh, on the street where you
Yes, no, actually we were seeing some people off on Saturday night. They'd only popped in for about 10 minutes. We went out the front to see them off, and they got into the car, and I had my head through the window, sort of saying my last farewells. My girlfriend looked up and said, UFO. It was a UFO. It was just above the treetops. Very, very close.
What does it look like? What's a UFO look like?
Well, this one looked like a saucer shape.
Oh.
Definite saucer shape. And I think a lot of people had changed their attitude if they saw one.
Now, a lot of you saw it, did they?
Oh, yes. There were 7 adults and a dog there that didn't even bark or, you know.
And was it there for long?
Yes, we watched it for about a minute and a half.
And then what happened?
It hovered over us, and we looked at it and we could see the ring of lights. I couldn't tell you if the centre was actually metallic or solid or what. It looked solid. Whether it was or not, I don't know. But it was a definite ring of lights. When they got out of the car and we all started screaming, it lifted slightly and just started to cruise away.
You did scream?
Oh, we all were. Petrified. Terrified.
You didn't rush inside the house?
No, my little boy did to get my husband, and he saw it too.
How big was it?
I couldn't estimate the size of it, but it went between the 2 houses across the road, and it would have covered the half of the roof of the house.
I think someone's coming. There's a knocking in the studio. They've come to get us.
Actually, Artie, the reason I reported it was because there must have been other people that saw this thing.
Who did you report it to? I mean, who does one report a UFO to?
Well, the first person I thought of was the Richmond Air Force Base. So I phoned them up, and he didn't laugh at me. They just send you out forms, and you fill them in, and it's all supposed to be very highly confidential.
You filled in a form?
I got it today, yes. Yeah, I got it today. I haven't filled it in yet. But the reason I gave the story to the Manly Daily was because there must have been other people that saw this thing.
Do you believe in UFOs? I mean, did you believe in UFOs? Or
No. I read a book on them many years ago, but I'm not one for science fiction anyway.
Yeah, now did anybody, apart from the people in your street, do you know if anybody else around saw it or
Well, there was a boy walking
or?
down the street. Now, today, just 30 minutes before I left for the show, a woman phoned me from Narrabeen, and she and her sister watched it for 4 minutes, and she lives at Narrabeen. And she phoned me today, 30 minutes before I got here.
Sort of spooky, isn't it?
So I'm glad I reported it now. I don't ever want to see another one.
But you believe in them now, obviously.
Well,
you
there's
must.
something, yeah, I saw, yeah.
Now, did you think they were, beings from outer space, or...?
Well, I think it was far too sophisticated for anything that we could come up with, honestly. I don't believe it was Americans or Russians or... I don't. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. I don't think I ever want to again.
No, well, look, there you are.
In a way, I'm sorry I saw it, but I did.
The drama unfolded around 11:30 last night while on the final leg of a drive from Wollongong to Barmah on the Murray River. According to Doris Kopetko, despite the dark night, they suddenly became well aware of the strange shape above them.
You could see the outline of like a diamond shape. There were
How big was it?
4 or 5 times the size of our car.
And just hovering?
Well, it was moving. It was definitely moving across us quite slowly enough to see.
Making any noise at all?
No noise at all.
Today, while recovering from the shock, they described not only their ordeal, but went on to illustrate to graphic artist Jenny Gillies the object they claimed to have encountered.
It had three big lights, a great big light at the front which was red with a small yellow light next to it, and then there were two other lights, one on each. They appeared to be on a corner, which was a blue light and a yellow light.
According to Doris, a registered nurse, until last night, UFOs were a figment of people's imagination. Her sister Helen, on the other hand, claims to have encountered them before.
Oh, I've seen them a couple of times, but...
And you don't report them?
No.
Why?
Well, people think you're silly out here.
As Brad and Cheryl Kersleg were driving home along the Hume Highway near Puckapunyal Army Base last night, they noticed a very large object 20 metres away, hovering silently just above the ground.
We said to each other it was at a house with lots of lights. They're crazy. And I said, no, it's a spaceship. And I said, don't say that. I said, look again. So we sort of really slowed down and we had a good look, and I'll tell you, it was a spaceship.
The Kerslegs are well respected in the community as being reliable and level-headed.
Before you saw this thing, did you believe in UFOs?
No, no, never.
And do you believe in them now?
My word, I do. Yep. They're here for a reason.
In a remote part of South Australia's Flinders Ranges, a strange 32-foot circle is etched into the grassy slope of a hill. Owner of the property, Joan Crawford, says it's the remains of an incident back in March witnessed by herself and a neighbour, which she's certain was an extraterrestrial visit.
I saw this enormous light and I stood there, and it must have been 5 to 6 minutes. My legs were like a half-set jelly. I was so scared.
These photographs show the circle and other small patches soon after the incident, but the marks haven't faded. Whatever happened here that night has left an obvious scar on the face of this hill. It's now 7 months after the incident, and while Salvation Jane is abundant, where the original marks were, vegetation still refuses to grow.
It is dead, the grass is dead, and on the circles there's nothing growing.
Jones reported the incident to UFO investigators, but in the meantime, she's at a loss to explain what happened.
I told my neighbours, and they all laughed at me, bar my grandson Wesley, who thought, well, if we can go to the moon, they can come down here.
This is the UFO Gladstone residents reported on Wednesday night.
The light was going from that area to that area, but there was no trail of light. It was just there 1 minute and here another minute.
Joan Mann was overwhelmed when she spotted it as she drove home from netball.
I raced into the driveway and I took off over to Margaret's to make sure she'd seen it. People think I wasn't the only one seeing this, and she come out.
Reported sightings on Wednesday night all concur, a pulsating light changing from white to blue to red. But what Michelle Mulby experienced on the same night in Ipswich was different. She was home alone when windows and doors started shaking.
You could feel the energy on top of the house. It was quite incredible.
They were travelling side by side, just travelling like in a pattern, across the sky.
This is what the Abduction family of Georgetown saw at around 10:15 on Monday night. While the lights are distorted on the home video, there were apparently 9 lights in all moving east towards the sea. Linda Abduction wasn't the only person bewildered by the lights. Mayfield and Newcastle police were inundated with calls, and RAF-based Williamtown received more than 40 calls in just half an hour. Officers are now examining this video to try and determine what it was that so many people saw.
We didn't know what they were. We're joking, UFOs, aliens, that kind of stuff,
The locals at Wycliffe Well, 374 kilometres north of Alice Springs, have spent their nights looking at the heavens, and lights, they say, are UFOs. An attempt to capture the lights on television cameras on Monday night proved unsuccessful. Experts claim the locals have been looking at the Star Striker. But Roadhouse owner Lou Farkas won't have a bar of that. He says what he and his staff see are lights that move around. Last night our cameras tried again, this time with success. There was a light, one bright white one and 2 others coloured red. And witnesses who couldn't believe their eyes.
Yeah, well, you just don't know what to think. When it's gone, you think, well, I wonder if I did see it at all.
RAAF personnel at Tyndall Air Force Base are making no comment, saying all they know about the lights is what they see in the local media. But the local Alikarung people say they've known about the lights for many years.
One night about 10 years ago in Floriat Park in Perth, Paul Moink saw something he couldn't quite explain. Paul, tell me about that.
Well, it would have been around about 10 or 11 years ago. I think it would be around about 1966. I was going to bed. It would have been about 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I laid in bed, looked out through the window, and I saw this thing going backwards and forwards extremely fast. I couldn't work out what it was, so I jumped out of bed, got both my parents out of bed, and a friend who was staying with us at the time. So there's 4 of us actually seeing it, so I wasn't by myself. And we stood out here and watched it for quite some time. And we thought, what the heck is it? It was just too fast to be a jet. It was changing direction too fast to be anything but, I would say, a UFO.
In the same year, this photograph, claimed to be a UFO, was taken from Kings Park in Perth, 4 miles away from where Paul's family live in Floriat Park.
Well, we got a surprise because we didn't know actually what it was, and we were puzzled, and we couldn't tell the shape of it because it was going too fast, and it was flying actually like a kite, but much faster.
Well, actually, when we came out here to look at it, we noticed we couldn't work out the distance it was because it was sort of about the height of those clouds there, and it was going between that lamp pole and that pine tree on the other side there, backwards and forwards, the way a kite would do if it was held there. It goes backwards and forwards like that. But it was not a kite because it couldn't go so far, and it couldn't be lit up the way it was.
It was yellow and was going backwards and forwards pretty fast, and well, it looked very unusual, you know, and rather interesting. But of course, it was fairly late, and but it looked like a UFO. I really did think that, you know, because I'd never seen anything like that before. Honestly, I hadn't.
What happened in the end, Paul?
Well, the fact that it was going backwards and forwards so fast, it wasn't actually stopping at each time that it got to the point that I wanted to turn at. It was just going there and straight back again, so it wasn't stopping. And after it had been doing this for quite some time, it wasn't lighting anything up or looking at anything. It didn't seem to be, but it just disappeared straight away from us, straight off into the north.
Fast?
Fast, yeah. It just disappeared, like it was going away so fast that it disappeared into the horizon sort of thing.
Ironically, the trip to Perth began with a viewing of the movie Gremlins. Just after midnight Monday morning, the Ansett Pioneer bus was taking 25 passengers between Mundrabilla and Madura when a bright light with another small light circling it confronted the vehicle and then followed the bus for 8 kilometres.
It seemed to just hover there for a couple of seconds, and I went past it. And I looked in the rear vision mirror, and it came in behind the bus. And then it stayed around about 1 kilometre behind me. And
Peter Chapman kept driving but alerted 5 other passengers who were awake. They were stunned and frightened as the glowing 3-metre sphere chased them. In January this year, the Knowles family from Perth claimed their car was buzzed and then lifted into the air by a similar object. Peter Chapman laughed off their claims, but Monday morning's experience has changed his mind. In 4 years of driving this road, he's seen nothing like it.
And I didn't believe it in it at all. That's UFO stuff. But I do now. It's totally different.
Unfortunately, no passenger could find a camera aboard to capture these few moments on film.
It was early morning on the sparse wasteland of the Nullarbor Plain when Faye Knowles and her 3 sons claim they heard an ear-splitting whir as they were chased by a glowing orange object. The Perth family was driving east on the air highway near Mundrabilla, less than 100 kilometres from the South Australian border. Mrs. Knowles has told police at Ceduna the egg-shaped UFO landed on their car as they were travelling at over 100 kilometres an hour. It swung the vehicle around before dropping it with such force it blew a tyre.
What about the people? Were they harmed at all?
Weren't harmed, but visibly shaken up. When the strange object disappeared, Mrs. Knowles and her sons Patrick, Sean and Wayne found their Telstar sedan covered in black ash. Truck drivers on the Nullarbor say there have been at least 3 UFO sightings since Christmas. Graham Henley saw the Knowles family at a Mundrabilla roadhouse. He confirmed they appeared shaken and upset.
I really couldn't explain it in normal, everyday terms, but those people were interfered with by something.
And today, support for the bizarre story from another Perth family travelling along the Nullarbor.
Massive light. It was very, very bright. I mean, it would have to have a lot of power in those lights to light up the whole area, and the sky was lit above it.
But it was too
strange.
Bright.
It was a strange phenomenon. It was
much too bright.
Here, for the first time outside of Australia, and without reprisal or ridicule, is the story of what happened on that January night in 1988, as told by the Knowles in their own words.
I was next to Sean. He was sitting in front,
driving, and I was asleep in the passenger side, and Sean goes, "Fat, wake up, look at this." And he goes, and I go to him, "What's the matter?" And he goes, "It looks like a UFO." And I said, "Can't show you." We drove up to it, approaching it, and this thing was, at first, it was just stopped in the road, and we approached it.
Yeah, it was more like an egg shape, and it had like a yellow centre.
Next minute, you know, this object appeared back behind us. And I said to Sean, "Come put your foot down, let's get going."
And that's when I decided to put my foot down. And it just caught up within a matter of seconds.
Sparks hit the back tyre like something was trying to blow out the tyre, like the object behind us. It blew the tyre out with like a beam of light.
Before we knew it, she just went clunk on the roof of the car.
It jumped on the roof of our car and took us up in the air like that.
And as it picked the car up, the car lit up like a microwave. It lit up really bright inside. We heard this great big enormous sound. It sounded like a motor or something. I don't know what. It's really hard to describe. Like, it made us feel like our heads were going to explode.
Yeah, we're frightened, and like our brain's been sucked out.
Yeah, it was hot. All this junk come inside the car, and, you know, and at that time, it was hard to explain because I kind of blanked out.
As the car was dropped, you could feel this object slip off the car.
Not long after, you know, it dropped the car. That's when I come out of it, and I took off from the car. I told them all to jump out.
We jumped at the car, ran over to the bushes, hid in the bushes.
And you could see this thing, it was still looking for us. And at the same time, I turned the lights off in the car, and somehow it could not focus on that car. Somehow it was working with our lights. As soon as I turned those lights off, it just could not find us.
According to the Knowles family, it was at this point that they experienced what ufologists refer to as missing time.
I think we lost about an hour and a half in time, and it's really hard to explain, you know, how long it did take.
Local police investigated the incident and found several eyewitnesses who corroborated the strange events on the Null Arbor Plain that night.
They were travelling along the road. A bright light appeared in front of the car. Shortly after, the light disappeared behind the car. The car was picked up on the road, shaken violently. The car was covered in ash, black ash.
What about the people? Were they harmed at all?
Weren't harmed, but visibly shaken up.
Many people witnessed the Knowles event, and they were from all professions and walks of life, and they were travelling in different vehicles. So we had people in spotter planes for the tuna boat people. We had the tuna boat people experiencing the UFO light above them.
Police investigators and scientists examined the car and analyzed the sooty residue found inside. Although their findings were inconclusive, most of the investigators insisted the damage to the vehicle and the tires was caused by some unexplained but natural causes.
A lot of the powers that be put it down to the rising sun or Jupiter or these other things which they think ordinary people mistake these things for. But it's their way of getting around it and not having to do anything about it, I think.
We just want people to know what happened to us and that we weren't out for anything. You know, we thought it was amazing ourselves. We thought we'd like to let people know what happened because it's, to us, you know, it was exciting plus very frightening. You know, you can't really explain what it's like unless it's actually happened to you. Like people say, you know, people used to laugh before and make a joke, but now they don't.
They swear they were followed by an unidentified flying object, a UFO, for almost 80 kilometres. They even got some photos. Simon Reeve reports.
Well, I can actually say that I've never seen them before. I've never experienced anything quite like it before.
A close encounter of the second kind in the Great Sandy Desert. Just another UFO story? Not this one.
Well, I've seen things that
shouldn't be in where they are, you know.
But never anything like this?
No, never actually like that, you know. Not at all.
4 separate sightings over a 4-hour period. The first at Lake Gregory, the last at Bull Creek Crater. Check the map. They're both in the middle of nowhere. What was your reaction when you saw the lights for the first time?
It's a funny sensation. You feel the hairs in your legs sort of curling and your heart's beating at about a million things per second, and your arms and legs sort of don't want to move.
So, what was it?
I don't know.
From the first sighting near Lake Gregory, Monty, Wayne and Brett travelled 40 kilometres down the track. They pulled up on the side of the road for a bite to eat. That's when the object appeared yet again, long enough for photographs to be taken. Photographs which have already been proved legitimate. The clearest shot shows the object to be pale blue in colour. It was a cloudy sky with no moon. Both men say the thing had definite shape and form. Over the sizzling snaggers, Monty continues.
And next thing, this thing's there again. Well, that's when I got the shot of the truck, you know. And well, there was this rumbling noise, just sounded like a car at high speed coming over corrugation, you know. And there was no cars. And then we stepped back from the fire, and then this thing was sitting there.
Virtually right on top of you?
Yeah, on the truck. And
by day, Monty runs a taxi service around Kununurra. He's well known in the area and cares little for outsiders' opinions. What about the people who say they're just a couple of guys who've lived in the bush too long? I guess you've had a few of them too.
Yeah, that's the old story, isn't it, you know? Been out scrub too long, yeah.
You don't go with that one, of course.
No.
The Kimberley Echo was the first paper to print the photos. James O'Kenny, who runs the torrid tabloid, is also well known in these parts. A straight shooter? You betcha.
Some of which I discount.
Would there be any reason to doubt what Monty and Wayne are saying?
Well, I'm always a bit sus, being in the same game as you, being in the media business, but I made it very plain to them, and you know, I'm involved with them. They do a lot of work for me and otherwise. And I said, if you make a fool of me, look out.
The third member of the trio, Brett Rogers, was so shaken he refused to leave the truck while the object hovered overhead. But it wasn't just the sight and sound that made the skin crawl.
The funny part about it was, from when we had tea until the last time we seen it, we started off again. We had no two-way contact for nothing. Like we were blaming one another's two-way for breaking down, you know.
It was virtually on the ground at the first sighting. And it was there until Monty took that last photograph, and then it appeared to move off. And Monty got back in the truck and said to me on the radio, he said, "What happened to the lights? They've gone out." And from the photograph, that last photograph he took, the actual thing was actually off the ground. I can only say what I saw, and it was unusual. It was huge. And I can't explain it. Simple as that.
Monty, Wayne and Brett saw something on the night of March the 5th. What it was remains a mystery. It'll probably stay that way forever. The skeptics will write it off. The fanatics will write it down in the record books.
I was travelling from Sydney in a northerly direction toward Gosford along this particular road here, the Pacific Highway. And it was quiet. There wasn't a lot of traffic. It was early Christmas morning. And I was just gazing out of the front window of the car, and I saw approximately half a kilometre away a bright silver metallic object crossing from south to north.
I stood here not believing my eyes, because where I sit, I can see the open water. And I just couldn't believe that this thing could appear on the water. was some kind of craft, but it was completely surrounded in lights underneath and all around, and it just looked like a carousel. It wasn't anything flat.
All people that I spoke to had exactly the same thing to say. There was no variance whatsoever in the object that was sighted. It was a huge chrome, very shiny object in the shape of a ball. At the bottom of the ball was a number of huge white lights. This object looked like it was sucking up water. Some calls were quite frightful in their voice. You could actually hear the fear, and in the background especially, the fear of people and, of course, animals and things at the time that were experiencing this phenomenon.
We're looking out above this headland here, and we're watching a bright light move in a strange fashion that you'll never see, or we never saw anyway. It was moving quickly and move, for instance, in a zigzag fashion. We were watching it for 10 to 15 minutes, move in this direction north, and we just saw this bright light 15, 20 metres above our car. Just a bright light, emanating light towards our car. Mate, it was just awesome.
All of a sudden I saw these lights come out of the water like a cylinder and flash, and the top of the water all lit up. And as that light was up, I could hear the rushing of water, movement of water, and then the water being raised up, and then shortly after, down comes the water on top of the lake.
I noticed this rather bright light that seemed to be on the right-hand side of the car, and it seemed to be following us for quite a while. And then all of a sudden it turned and went at a right angle right across the expressway in front of the car. It was large, round, and it seemed to have a stream of sparks flying out the back of it. I don't know what it was, but it was most peculiar.
We were out playing sport on the oval. One of the kids yelled out, look up in the sky, you know, it's flying saucers. And I remember we all looked up, and it really was a flying saucer. I mean, from what you imagine, a flying saucer, it was a round silver disc, and it seemed to be very low over the school. And I remember kids screaming and running inside.
This student came in, was hysterical, leaned up against a sliding door, screaming, there's a flying saucer in the oval. And, of course, everybody started to head towards the door, and the teacher said, sit down, it's not recess yet. And a few minutes later, the bell went off.
I went into the staff room. Because I knew I wouldn't have a chance to have a cup of tea any other time, I went to get a cup of tea. And then because I was a smoker, and this is something that has stayed with me for 42 years,
yes,
I lit up a cigarette. And so I don't know how much I delayed before I went outside.
Everyone just took off out into the oval. In time to see it lifting off from the oval. It was probably, 50 feet or more in the air at that stage.
I see Andrew Greenwood, the science teacher, coming towards me, and he said, did you see it? Did you see it? And he pointed up in the air, and I said, no, see what? I have a very, very clear picture of him, and I remember almost exactly what he said. And he said it was up in the sky, it moved at incredible speeds, it hovered, It seemed to go away, and there seemed to be light planes. He thought Cessnas he thought they were actually checking it out from the urban airport, and they were circling around it.
Sort of stopped dead, and stopped dead in the air, and then it just sort of started descending straight down. And I'd say it got down about halfway up that gum tree or above the goalpost and sat there for a while. And then it just sort of lifted straight up and then just took straight off.
This thing went down behind the trees, then it came up, and it was like it had become aware of these planes coming in, and it just went woof and just left them like they were standing still.
And then it went across to an area called the Grange, which was a bit of a pine plantation behind the school. A lot of the kids took off towards where it seemed to go, and it disappeared down behind the trees. So we all got through this fence and ran towards where it had appeared to land.
Tanya and I and this other girl, we were over the fence. Tanya was in the lead and we ran towards where it was coming down. I lost sight of Tanya. She was in front of me.
A couple of girls got there faster than me. I was a bit slow. And they actually passed out. And apparently it did land because when we got there, there was a great big round patch of like flattened yellow, almost burnt, although I'm a bit sketchy on that. I can't remember if it was really burnt or whether it was just flattened, but it was sort of yellow and the grass was all flattened in a swirly sort of a pattern.
Before I got there, the disc came back up again. So I stopped chasing it.
We looked up and we just saw this saucer type thing taking off, and it seemed to turn side on and just disappear into thin air.
Well, what about your friend Tanya?
I believe she did see it on the ground.
She did see it on the ground.
So I was given to believe, yes. But I went back to school and Tanya went back to school and basically had gone all to pieces. There was definitely an ambulance on the oval and I was told that she'd been taken away in the ambulance. And that was the last time I ever saw her.
Wow.
She was just gone and she never came back to school.
Tanya wasn't the only person who saw the craft on the ground. Before they headed over to the Grange, Victor Zakruzny says 2 objects landed in a grassy paddock where a street is now.
All the kids were hanging on the fence there. There's quite a few kids there. It's a high fence, and I got up to the top there, and all you could see is 2 discs, one there and one a bit further away, probably 3 metres apart. I could hear somebody in the background saying, "Stay away, don't jump the fence." And so I said, "Oh, bugger, I'm going over the fence." The craft probably would have been about there. And there was another one set back a bit on an angle, probably just about there. There's a few kids walking around there, and I was the only one on this side. I got up to it to want to touch it, and it was, well, you could feel heat about a metre away coming from it. It was pretty warm or hot, and within a minute or so, it just, both of them just lifted up at the same time, about this height. And I seen, oh, that was breathtaking watching that. And then it just gradually lifted up, and then went off towards the pines. I did a rough sketch of it.
Wow, look at that. This is the view from underneath.
That's underneath. There's no seams, no joints, it's just smooth metal. Normally an aircraft has sheet metal, pipe rivets, or all that sort of stuff there. This looked like it come out of a mould or something like that, all one smooth piece of metal. It was just incredible. It's just something like you see in the movies.
She may have been dreaming, but Amy Rylance says she didn't imagine it when a spaceship landed in her front yard and took her away.
Do you believe in aliens or UFOs?
I do now. I definitely do now.
I believe in it now because I've seen it and I know what I saw.
Amy's friend Petra was also in the house that night and claims she was woken by a bright light.
I've seen Amy in front of me on a beam of light being carried out of the living room window into a really huge ship outside.
The only evidence this happened, a torn curtain and a burnt bush, apparently singed by the bright light which carried sleeping Amy out the window.
No, I don't drink. I don't take drugs at all. I'm just a normal person.
So what was your reaction when you saw this? What did you do? Did you reach out to help her?
No, I couldn't. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it, and I fainted.
Next to wake up was Amy's husband, Keith.
I freaked out completely. I went mental, running around, screaming for her. But after I believed Petra, which I did after about 5 minutes, I called the police.
The only physical evidence I have are the marks from the tests that they did on me.
What sort of tests?
Just getting kind of DNA samples, and they didn't do anything bad to me, so it was wholly a good experience from my point of view.
While police are sceptical, Amy and Keith say no one can explain how she was taken from Maryborough in southern Queensland and ended up in Mackay in North Queensland, a distance of 800 kilometres, in 3 hours in the middle of the night.
So it doesn't matter if we were all on hallucinogenic drugs and drinking, that still wouldn't put Amy 800 kilometres away.
In the early morning of the 8th of August 1993, my husband and I were travelling home along a country Victorian road when we encountered a craft that seemed to consist of orange lights and some blue fluorescent haze underneath. We pulled the car up and crossed the road, and as we did so, a second party pulled up behind us. As we stood on the edge of the field, a black figure appeared on the field, soon followed by 7 or 8 other figures. I felt this incredible sense of power go through me, and I began to scream hysterically that they had no souls. I felt a blow to my stomach, which sent me back through the air to land on my back. I continued to go on hysterically and eventually called on the name of God and found myself back in the car again. When we arrived home that morning, I discovered a red triangular mark beneath my navel, and I'd also begun to bleed and was hospitalised with an infection in the womb 3.5 weeks later. Yeah, it's cost me my marriage, it's cost me my privacy. Financially, it's just about killed me, and basically my whole life has fallen to pieces.
Kelly Carl, not her real name, led an uncomplicated life with her family in the foothills of the Dandenong Ranges. Her encounter is one of Australia's most interesting cases because there has been independent corroboration.
In the beginning, when I first reported the encounter, I thought I was going absolutely nuts for a little while, and I didn't really think even that researchers were going to believe me. But it wasn't until the second party came forward that this was basically relieved, because they had come forward with the same story and taken researchers to the same location.
Grace's experience starts in the early hours of the morning, travelling home with 3 girlfriends. Victoria, who can't be identified, was one of the women in the back seat.
It's when I got a bit further down the hill that I noticed on the right-hand side of me some long oblong-shaped lights. I didn't know what they were. I mean, I only sort of caught a glimpse of a bright orange light sort of shining through. As I got down the hillside and started to come around the corner by this little hotel that takes us back through the back roads towards the freeway, one of the girls in the back noticed a very bright white light with a type of blue haze around it. When the girls were sort of saying, oh, maybe, you know, like it's a UFO, and, you know, was sort of like just laughed it off and said, don't be so ridiculous.
The women continued their trip, but further down the road, more lights appeared.
I heard Victoria and one of the other girls in the back there, they were commenting on something that was behind us. They actually thought somebody was coming up behind us, like a truck or something, because it was moving fairly fast and very bright. It was just such a bright as blinding light. It was orange like a sunset, and it was just spanning across the road.
I got really scared, and I said to Grace, quick, just step on it. Because I knew there was a town just a kilometre up the road.
Since we got closer into the middle of this car parking area and looked up, we could see this ship. Well, that's what you'd have to call it, because it was, you know, definitely not an aeroplane, and it was something from definitely not this world, that's for sure.
Sort of moved across from this direction straight over the top of us. It sort of disappeared into a gully where we lost sight of it.
We were scared for our safety. I mean, I've got to be honest, I think it's the first time in my life that I could identify of anybody telling me that they were scared they were going to die, because I was. When I got to the opening of the drive here, the other girls noticed that there was something else up, some activity up there in the sky. We were still scared. We didn't know what they were either. They seemed to be moving in a direction that this other craft had gone over and gone down.
So the first thing you think of, just pull off someone's driveway.
And as I pulled in, the light was so blinding, it actually was hurting our eyes to look at it. Then I noticed a figure coming. It wasn't a human. It definitely was no human, that's for sure. I felt threatened by it. I felt really, really threatened by it. That was the closest thing I've ever experienced, the thought of actually, coming close to death, I suppose, which sounds pretty silly, but the fear that I had was like that, like I wasn't going to see my family again. And the weird thing is that it's not the normal thing to talk about and for people to accept. But, it's been 3 years now, and I still feel very distressed by it.
Delta Sierra Juliet, and confirm you cannot identify the aircraft.
Affirmative. Melbourne, Delta Sierra Juliet, it's not an aircraft. It is.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne, can you describe the aircraft?
Delta Sierra Juliet, as it's flying past, it's a long shape. Cannot identify more today, because it's not speed. Call me right now, Melbourne.
And how large would the object be?
It seems like it's chasing me. What I'm doing right now is orbiting, and the thing is just orbiting on top of me also. It's got a green light and sort of metallic light. It's all shiny in the outside. It's just vanished. Melbourne, would you know what kind of aircraft I've got? Is it a certain military aircraft?
And Delta Sierra Juliet, confirm the aircraft just vanished.
Say again?
And Delta Sierra Juliet, is the aircraft still with you?
Delta Sierra Juliet on north, south, fighting from the southwest. Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It is hovering, and it's not an aircraft. Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne.
Well, after Frederick reported this UFO incident, I inclined to think that it could be some intelligent life in the outer space, despite all the officials are trying to suppress this, or really makes me very confused, because knowing Frederick what he radiated, and knowing my son wouldn't make himself so ridiculous in stating things like that. So I'm inclined to believe that really must be something in the space that the general population may not aware to be. And I realized after his disappearance, which I couldn't have the opportunity before, how many calls I get from various parts of the world. And they really encouraged me to believe that he could be still alive, albeit with another intelligence in space.